So in this practice problem set, we're going to do a couple of different things. First, we're going to just take a look at this quick graph of an artificial monopoly. Then I'm going to ask that you take a look at Jacob Clifford's video, Micro 4.3 Monopoly Deadweight Loss Review. And there's a couple of questions based on his graphs there. And then we're going to switch gears and take a look at this practice problem set, 4.3 Part 3. So these are kind of some separate videos that you're going to see, all related to monopolies. So we'll start off with Part A of this one, and this just says determine the price. So the way we determine the price is where MR equals MC, right? And that price up on the demand curve, so demand equals the price, is 40. So we look for the quantity where MR equals MC, and we go up to the demand curve to find the price. So 40. Then it says total revenue. Now this is just the price times the quantity, so 40 times that quantity of 50 here is 2,000. Now we look for total cost, and total cost we find as the ATC times the quantity. So the ATC value, if we go down and we find ATC is here at 30. So 30 times the quantity of 50 equals, oops, I'm writing that in the wrong spot. 30 times 50 equals 1,500. And then profit is TR minus TC. And so 2,000 minus 1,500 is 500 in profit. And if it helps you, you can actually shade the area on here of the profit rectangle. So this monopoly is earning lots of profit, right? Lots of profit. Then the next question says deadweight loss. Now, deadweight loss is going to be the kind of the area, the quantity of the transactions that are occurring over along the supply curve. So this is the supply curve along the demand curve. So it's that triangle right here, and we can find the area of that triangle is 40 to 32, and then we've got here, since both halves are the same size, to 20, so it's going to be what do we have here? Two triangles, and so then it's 4 times 20 is 80. So 4 times 20 equals 80. And that's the area of these two triangles in there. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at this Monopoly Deadweight Loss review video. And I'd ask that you take a look at his video first before answering these questions. But in it, he graphs the two different graphs of perfectly competitive and monopoly, along with its deadweight loss. So we're going to do those here. Quantity and price and demand and supply. And for the perfectly competitive, they just are at supply equals demand. And so this area is consumer surplus, and this area is producer surplus. So that's the price in equilibrium, and that's the quantity in equilibrium. For a monopoly, we have a downward sloping demand curve that tells us the price, but we also have a marginal revenue curve. And then we have a upward sloping marginal cost curve that's effectively the supply curve. Now we would think that they're going to produce here where supply equals demand, but they don't. Remember, they profit maximize at MR equals MC. So the quantity the firm produces is here, and they price way up here on the demand curve. So the price is going to be higher than it would be in perfect competition, right? It would be here in perfect competition, and the quantity would be, right, larger. That's the quantity in perfect competition. In perfect competition, the quantity would be larger than what the firm is doing in a monopoly. So this, because this is the price that's actually being paid, this area up here is consumer surplus. This quantity over to the supply curve, right, down to the supply curve, that is our producer surplus. And then, as he shaded in the video, you've got that deadweight loss triangle right there. Question 2, if deadweight loss occurs, what can we tell us about the efficiency in the market? Well, we know it's inefficient, that the market is inefficient. It's actually allocatively inefficient. Question 3, what can we say about MR that causes this to happen? Well, it's because MR is below the demand curve. MR is below the demand. is the consumer surplus larger or smaller in a monopoly than in perfect competition, and why? And so here we'd have to look, but in perfect competition, the price would have been here, right? So the price would have been a little bit lower, and the quantity would have been larger in perfect competition. So what we can say is that consumer surplus is smaller in monopoly because price is higher and quantity is lower. Let me write that there so you can see it. And then the last question here is, what are other examples of when deadweight loss would be created, and why does it occur? So in this class, we've talked about deadweight loss when we talked about taxes, and when we talked about quotas, and when we talked about price controls like ceilings and floors. And all of these reduce the quantity. And that's actually why the deadweight loss is happening, is because we're not at the socially optimal quantity. So this is the socially optimal quantity, and that's why. So one of the questions in the homework actually referred to this as well, is why does this deadweight loss happen? Is it because the consumer surplus is smaller? No, it's because we're not at the right quantity. So hopefully this helps you with these practice problems, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.